Egypt, a land of myths and gods, existed long before the dawn of life on Earth. In fact, it is posited that life itself originated there. This paradise, forged by the hands of the gods, hosted a divine coexistence between these omnipotent beings and their humblest creation, man. Majestic and tall, the gods stood out among mortals. Gold flowed through their veins instead of blood, and they boasted the ability to transform into fearsome beasts at will. Yet Egypt was under the tutelage of two divine brothers. Osiris, the god of life, ruled over the fertile lands, while another unnamed god dominated the arid desert. The day for Osiris to crown a new king had finally arrived. We meet Horus, the god of the air, freshly awake from a night of festivities. As he relaxes, we are introduced to Hathor, the goddess of love and Horus's lover. Horus is preparing for his crowning ceremony, with two average humans, Bek and Zaya, present to witness the event. Many gods, like Nephthys, the goddess of protection, and Thoth, the god of wisdom, bless Horus with gifts. The time comes for Osiris, the king of Egypt, to crown his son Horus as the new king, but his brother Set bursts in at that moment. Set, determined to reclaim his position, presents his nephew Horus with a gift, a horn. When Horus tests it, a powerful sound resonates, summoning Set's vast troops. Osiris, bewildered, inquires about his brother's intentions. Set, brandishing his spear, recalls the desert nights when this same weapon saved him from death during his exile, forced to reign over nothing. Today, he has returned to claim the throne, and in an act of betrayal, stabs Osiris. He proclaims himself the new king of Egypt, demanding worship from gods and humans alike and threatening death to those who oppose him. Enraged, Horus challenges Set. The battle hangs in the balance, but Set displays notable superiority. Seeking an advantage, Horus transforms, but Set mimics his move, escalating the confrontation. The fierce combat shows no respect for the infrastructure built by slaves. Using dishonorable tactics, and with his army's assistance, Set manages to blind Horus, robbing him of his counterattack opportunity, and causing him to lose his transformation. Knocked down and vulnerable, Horus has his eyes, the source of his power, taken by Set. In this critical moment, Hathor, the goddess of love, intervenes, kneeling before Set and pleading for mercy for Horus. Thanks to her intervention, Horus avoids a worse fate. After this dramatic confrontation, Set emerges as the new ruler of Egypt. Several years pass and humans are enslaved, forced to surrender their last coin for their souls to be admitted into the afterlife. Horus, meanwhile, has retreated into exile. We find Bek again, now a slave, with his girlfriend Zaya working for an architect. When her boss isn't around, Bek visits her, and Zaya proposes an idea: steal Horus's eyes hidden in Set's secret vault. That night, the vault will open to store all the treasures that Set has collected that day. Since Zaya works for the architect, she decides to steal the blueprints to aid Bek. Meanwhile, Set spends time with the goddess Hathor, Horus's ex-lover. At that moment, the architect arrives to show Set the great tower he has built for him. As night falls, Bek infiltrates Set's treasure vault, where he sees one of Horus's eyes in the distance. Despite many traps, he retrieves the eye. The next day, Bek visits his girlfriend, but the architect has pieced everything together. Just when he is about to catch them, Bek uses Horus's eye to blind him and escape. But just when they seem safe, the architect, with his keen eye, manages to shoot an arrow at Zaya, sending her straight to the afterlife. Zaya dies. Bek arrives at Horus's humble temple. Horus attempts to kill Bek to retrieve the eye, but being blind, he fails and offers gold instead. Bek, however, only wants Horus to revive his beloved, a feat Horus claims is impossible. Horus summons Anubis to take Zaya to the afterlife, but Bek knows she won't be able to enter as she died a slave and has no relics to offer Anubis, potentially condemning her to hell. Finally, Bek returns the eye to Horus. He tells him his girlfriend will take several days to reach the underworld, but he could save her if he recovers his crown and power before Zaya reaches the gates of judgment. Following this, with Beck's help, they both commence their plan to reclaim power. Meanwhile, Seth prepares his army to face the rebellious gods. This is when the architect arrives to inform him that Horus's eye has been stolen. Seth harshly scolds the architect, calling him worthless as his traps proved ineffective and a mere mortal managed to steal the eye. In the meantime, Horus and Beck are climbing a mountain. Horus plans to go to his grandfather, the god Ra, the sun god. However, without his eye, Horus cannot transform, so he must continuously pray. His prayers work, and he transforms, bringing Beck to his grandfather's palace. This place is the source of creation, but his grandfather has to work that day, like every night, because the demon Apophis, a space worm, attempts to devour the earth every day. Ra, with the power of the sun, drives him away. Yet Ra refuses to support Horus, who has come asking for more power as he wants to dethrone Seth, whose reign he believes is a disaster. Horus manages to drink a little water from the source. His grandfather tells him that he doesn't approve of Seth's style of rule, but he's not sure if Horus would do any better. Meanwhile, Seth plans to kill the rebellious gods, but Hathor, his new wife and the goddess of love, tells him that's going too far. However, he doesn't care and arrives at the refuge of the rebellious gods on his sled, where he starts killing their guards one by one. Here, Seth encounters his ex-lover, or rather his still wife, though they are no longer together. She is the goddess Nephthys, who resides in her ruined palace. She reminds him of how she agreed to marry him in the past, telling him that nothing could satisfy him. But now, as she opposes him and tries to flee, Seth catches her, sending her to the underworld, and takes away her wings. While all this was happening, Horus and Beck return from the sky and land in a jungle. Horus asks Beck to fetch him some water. As the young man does so, Seth's servants appear and capture him, but Horus finally reveals himself and confronts them. Despite being down an eye and a little weak, he takes a beating for a while. However, he manages to defeat these beasts, but in the end, he's hit on the head and falls with Beck down a waterfall. But all is calm, for they are saved. Let's go back to Seth, who was speaking with his lover, the goddess Hathor. He reveals to her that he wants to take over all the kingdoms, including the realm of the dead. But Hathor tells him, "Oh, my dear Seth, you're becoming more unhinged every day. You can't have everything you want." He asks her to take him to the underworld, but she refuses because she doesn't want to return there, having been tormented by demons in the past. But thanks to the bracelet Horus got for her, Hathor can now stay in the realm of the living. After refusing, she seeks a moment alone to communicate with Horus through the desert sand. But at that moment, Seth discovers her. Upon discovering her betrayal, Seth attempts to kill her, but she removes her bracelet, causing her to be consumed by demons, which infuriates Seth. In the underworld, this goddess is tormented by demons, but manages to put her bracelet back on. Returning again to the world of the living, this time to the desert where Horus and Beck had traveled. The next day, Horus and Beck find themselves in an old temple of his father, which had been desecrated by Seth. But at that moment, his uncle's hunters arrive on a couple of pets, snakes, so both begin to run. To cut a long story short, they easily dispose of the first one by tricking the white snake into falling into an abyss. But the other one remains. And it's at that moment that the goddess of love arrives. She confronts the beast and seduces it, causing the creature to self-destruct. Horus, somewhat perplexed, can't comprehend why she's aiding him, especially after having a romantic involvement with his uncle. However, she explains that Set's thirst for power threatens all gods, including her, which is why she chooses to assist Horus. She reveals that to access Set's treasure, they must overcome the Sphinx's challenge. Their next goal, therefore, is to seek out Thoth, the god of wisdom, who is hiding in a jungle, not to rescue him, but to persuade him to join them. As they cross a lake, Horus's former partner, the goddess of love, tries to seduce Beck into bringing her pure water, but her attempt at enchantment fails. The goddess wonders who has captured Beck's heart, as her power should work on any being, unless they're in love with someone else. Beck reveals that his beloved Zaya is dead, but he now aids Horus in the hope that he can resurrect her, leaving Hathor astonished. Eventually, they arrive at Thoth's hideout. The omniscient god refuses their request for his help to solve the riddle of the Sphinx. Hathor, the goddess of love, offers to spend a night with him in return for his cooperation, but Thoth declines. Bek then attacks his pride, threatening to tell the Sphinx that Thoth refused to assist them out of fear. This blow to his ego successfully persuades Thoth to join them. Walking through the barren sands of the desert, Hathor urges Horus to reveal the harsh truth to Bek. His beloved Zaya cannot be resurrected from the underworld. However, Horus refuses to do so, as he needs Bek to reach Set's fire, where he plans to pour the water from the creation spring to extinguish his power. As they wait for nightfall, Hathor attempts to facilitate a connection between Bek and Zaya using the desert sand. They manage to communicate briefly, and Bek promises Zaya that he will save her with Horus's help. However, Anubis in the underworld interrupts their communication, forbidding Zaya from speaking with the living. Continuing their journey, they arrive at a sand labyrinth. Bek ventures into it and manages to find the exit, allowing all four to reach the Sphinx. The Sphinx poses its riddle, but Thoth fails to solve it twice, putting them at risk of being crushed. However, on his third attempt, he gets it right, and the Sphinx disappears. They head to Set's pit, intending to drop a droplet from the creation spring into it, but a cage traps Horus and Hathor. Set appears and extracts Thoth's brain, leaving him in a state of suspension. Meanwhile, Bek was about to drop the droplet into the fire, but Set stops him, revealing that Horus has lied. Zaya cannot be resurrected, not even by a king. Bek confronts Horus, but his silence confirms the betrayal. Set then seizes the water of creation and pours it into the desert, concluding his vengeance. He leaves them trapped and departs as everything around them starts to crumble. Nevertheless, Horus manages to free himself from the cage and the three escape. Once safe, Bek confronts Horus, accusing him of constant lies and arguing that the gods do not care for mortals. Horus admits he's right. Unable to bear the situation, Hathor invokes Anubis and offers her bracelet to allow Zaya to enter the Field of Reeds, the Egyptian heaven. Despite Horus's resistance, Hathor removes the bracelet and is absorbed by demons. Meanwhile, Zaya arrives at the weighing of the heart ceremony. She observes a wealthy man placing many jewels on the scales, but they outweigh the feather, and he is denied entry to heaven. Then she sees an old woman who only has an old ring, causing the feather to weigh more, and she's sent to hell. Zaya, who has no relic to give, watches this judgment sadly. At that moment, Bek arrives with Anubis. They try to touch each other, but they are on different planes of existence. However, they can see each other and say goodbye. Simultaneously, Set starts merging with the mystical artifacts of other gods he had seized, including Thoth's brain, Nephthis's wings, Horus's eye, and many more, gaining extreme power. With this power, Set decides to visit his father, Ra, at the Fountain of Creation. Set blames Ra for giving the throne to Osiris instead of to him, but Ra reveals it was a lesson for Set to learn to live without attachment. Ra had forbidden him from having children so that Set would stay in his place every night, fighting the beast Apophis. However, Set desired to return to Egypt and rule the lands he had conquered. He also yearned for immortality, but Ra warns that this would be impossible, and if he tried, he would destroy the entire universe. Angered, Set confronts his father, resisting his attacks thanks to the powers he obtained from the artifacts of other gods. Eventually, Set eliminates Ra and takes his spear. Meanwhile, in judgment of the afterlife, Zaya refuses the bracelet that Bek offers her because she does not want to be without him. At that moment, everything is interrupted because Apophis has started to attack the earth. Bek returns with Horus, and they set off to stop Set, who descends from the sky with Ra's spear, ready to confront Apophis. Alongside them, they bring the architect Uri, and with his help, they ascend the tower that Seth had toppled. Horus scales the tower to battle his brother Seth, but he is at a disadvantage. Just as Horus is about to fall, Bek appears and prevents his fall. This angers Seth, who brutally strikes Bek. Seizing the moment, Bek recovers Horus's eye and throws it to him. Horus is torn between regaining his eye or saving Bek. In the end, he chooses to save his friend, but Seth melts the tower's gold, causing them both to fall. At that moment, Horus realizes he could always transform, without the need for both of his eyes. Now transformed, Horus confronts Seth again, this time with much more power. Seth is defeated, and Horus, with Ra's spear, banishes him to the underworld. Later, Horus returns to his grandfather Ra, reviving him by handing back his spear. Ra returns to Earth and scares away Apophis with all his power. Back in the village, a little girl gives Horus his other eye. He thanks Bek, but Bek, severely injured, passes away. Horus lays him next to his beloved Zaya, and they can finally be together in the afterlife. Grateful to Horus, Ra offers to grant him a wish. Horus asks him to revive Bek and Zaya, and they both return to life. Finally, Horus returns to his kingdom and is crowned by Thoth as the new king of Egypt. Now, to pass into the afterlife, relics would no longer be required, only good deeds would suffice. Bek becomes his advisor and resides in the king's quarters with Zaya. Bek still has one last task, to give Horus the bracelet of Hathor, the goddess of love. So, Horus decides to leave for a few days to fight demons and retrieve his beloved Hathor. This concludes the story of Gods of Egypt.